What is going on, people? My name is Callum WM. My hair's a bit of a mess, my beard's a bit of a mess, so I'm going to wear my hoodie like this for the minute. I'll show you what it looks like. I need a trim, I need a haircut, guys, you know, so I'm going to go get a haircut today. But for now, I'm going to leave my hood like this. Anyway, that's not why you're here. So today we're going to be doing one transfer every team should sign in the summer window. We're going to go through all 20 Premier League clubs and just see what they sign. Comment down below who you think your team should sign, and let's get into it, as they say. Starting off with number 1, Arsenal. I think Arsenal should sign Youri Tielemans. I think he's the best suited signing for them. Arsenal have a very good midfield. Obviously an attacking midfield of Martin Odegaard, very creative. But when you look a little bit down, you know, back along the pitch, there's sort of defensive midfielders, sort of natural centre midfielders like Xhaka and Thomas Partey and El Neni. They're more about breaking up play, less about, you know, being creative and pulling the strings from deep. And to be honest, if you want to make Champions League, you want to be fighting for titles, you need that little player who can sort of pick the game up and control the tempo from deep. So that's why I would personally go with Youri Tielemans for Arsenal. Next up, moving on to Aston Villa. I would go with Joe Gomez for Aston Villa. I know they've already signed Bobby Kamara. They've signed Diego Carlos from Seville. I think they're making some massive transfers. And I think Joe Gomez would be excellent because he can play right back. He can play centre back as well. He can play in a back three. I just think it would be a logical signing for a player who's not getting many minutes at Liverpool to come to Aston Villa under Steven Gerrard and have a really good career. Next up is going to be Bournemouth. I would sign Nat Phillips for Bournemouth. He was on loan there last season. He had an excellent loan spell there. And I think if Bournemouth want to push on and try and survive in this league, they need a good defender. And Nat Phillips has already shown in the Premier League that he can be a good defender. He's definitely a player they should look into getting. Alongside Lloyd Kelly, I think Nat Phillips and Lloyd Kelly is a centre-back partnership that can at least give you a chance at Premier League survival. Next up, I'm moving on to Brentford. I think Brentford should sign Aaron Hickey from Boulogne. He's an excellent right back. He's Scottish, he's 19, he's young. He scored 6 goals last season for Boulogne in the Italian Serie A. And he's only about 12 million. I think it's an excellent signing for Brentford, and it fits their model of player that they like to sign. Next up, we're moving on to Brighton. I think Brighton should go for a striker. I think Neil Maupay had a struggle last season, and you can't always rely on him for goals. There was times where they were relying on Danny Welbeck for goals as well. So I would go for Brozier from Brozier. I don't know how to pronounce it. I would go for Brozier from Chelsea. He scored 10 goals last season for Southampton. I think the way Brighton play would suit him. And I just think it's a transfer that needs to happen. Obviously, he's back on loan at Chelsea. I don't see him getting many minutes as a striker. So I would go for him. I think it's a smart option. No surprise, next up, moving on to Chelsea. Chelsea is going to be the obvious one. It's going to be Jules Koundé. I'm just going to go for Jules Koundé. I think he's an excellent signing for them. They've been linked with him for a few months now, for a few years now, really. Last season they were linked with him. And with Antonio Rudiger leaving, with Azpilicueta staying, with Marcos Alonso wanting to leave, there's so many rumours about Chelsea's defence falling apart, really. I honestly think he's the signing to make. He's an excellent player, even though I can't pronounce his name. And he's one signing that Chelsea should make. Next up, we're moving on to Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are having a little bit of a midfield crisis at the minute. Obviously, with Kouyaté not signing a new deal at the minute. MacArthur getting old, Conor Gallagher going back to Chelsea, Luka Milivojevic looking to leave. I honestly would go for a player that's a little bit out left, but it's Hadira. He's energetic, box to box. He's a bit like Conor Gallagher, but cheaper. And I think that might be the way to do it for him to sign for Crystal Palace. I think they need someone that's going to put the pressure on and chase the defence and chase the strikers and do the running when they don't want to do. A box to box can get forward, can go back. That's a signing I would make for Crystal Palace. Next up, moving on to Everton. I think Everton should be the team that go for Maxwell Cornet. 17.5 million release clause. He was excellent in the Premier League last year, and I just think it's a transfer that makes sense in terms of the way Everton play and the way they want to attack and the way they want to push on next season. Everton have been known to spend massive money and not let it work, and obviously under Frank Lampard it started to work towards the end of last season with the real spirit that they had. So I would personally go for Maxwell Cornet. So next up is going to be Fulham. I think Fulham should sign Nick Pope. The best part about staying in the Premier League is you need a good goalkeeper. You need a strong goalkeeper, and Nick Pope is a very good goalkeeper. I don't think their goalkeepers at the minute are good enough to keep them in the Premier League. I know Fulham have got like 100 million to spend on players to try and bring themselves back up to that level. But personally, I would go for Nick Pope. I think he's a good all-rounded Premier League goalkeeper who is Premier League standard. Next up, we're moving on to Leeds. I think Leeds should sign Collins from Burnley. He had a breakout season last year at 21 years old. And he is just an overall good centre-back. He's a very good young centre-back. learning his trade, and I think he deserves to learn his trade in the Premier League. Obviously, there were calls for him to be called into the non-top 6 Premier League team of the season alongside James Tarkowski. So I just think it makes sense for Leeds to get someone in who can replace Cooper if Cooper is going to be fighting fitness and fighting injuries. So I would personally go for Collins. Right, next moving on to Liverpool. For Liverpool, I would go for Gavi. I think he's an excellent young player. He's 17 years old. Liverpool love that model of the 17-year-old who can pick a pass and press and do this. He's got 60 million euro release clause, and he's currently unhappy at Barcelona. He's been linked with Liverpool, and I just think it's a transfer they should make. Obviously, with Sadio Mane leaving, I think that opens up space for Jota to play more minutes. I think that opens up space with Luis Diaz to get more minutes as well. I think Liverpool's attack is completely fine. The defence is pretty much perfect. So I think that little midfield area would work with Gavi and Thiago, and then maybe a Naby Keita or a Henderson who can come in and press. I think that would be honestly the smartest move for Liverpool to make. Next up, we're moving on to Manchester City. I would sign Calvin Phillips. I think he is a good Fernandinho replacement. He'll be around £50 million, I think, obviously with the English tax. But I think that Calvin Phillips would be a good signing for Manchester City. He's not moving too far away from home. Manchester City needs someone to replace Fernandinho. They need someone who can break up play. If Rodri isn't there, they've got no replacement, so I think he's definitely going to go there and he will definitely get more minutes. Next up is going to be Manchester United. I'm going to go with Yoran Timber from Ajax. I think he's definitely going to be coming anyway, but he is one of those players that has been played under Erik ten Hag, and Man United need a rejuvenated defence, in my opinion, with Harry Maguire not playing well, Lindelof not playing well, Bailly wanting out, Jones wanting out. The whole defence wants out with Man United at the minute, so I think you need some fresh blood in there. You need, Yoran Timber. You can play right back, you can play centre back, you can play left back, who can come in and really just do a job for Man United and do a job for Erik ten Hag and set the standard in that defence. Next up, we're moving on to newly rich boys, Newcastle. I think Newcastle should sign Lucas Paqueta. He got 11 goals and 8 assists last year. He can play in the 7, he can play in the 10, he can play in the 8, and he can also drop deep. His vision, his passing is absolutely excellent to watch, and he can really complement Bruno Guimaraes well, I think, in that midfield, alongside Joe Linton as well, who's more of a intercepting, breaking up play and moving it forward kind of player. I think Lucas Paqueta would be an excellent signing for Newcastle in their newly rejuvenated money man millions era, basically. Right, next up is going to be Nottingham Forest, new boys to the Premier League. I think the one obvious signing for them is going to be Spence from Middlesbrough. They had him on loan last year. I think he's going to be, about 15 million, and he obviously wants to stay. And he is the modern fullback in terms of the Premier League standard. That if Forest can, get in there and keep him, he's definitely one that they can, give for 15 million and then sell for 40 million in the future. Or he's definitely one who's going to... Right, my camera's died, so we're just going to continue what I was saying about Nottingham Forest. Yes, I think Dejan Spence is definitely the transfer to go for in terms of who they want to bring in and bring in Premier League quality. Next up is going to be Southampton. I think Southampton should sign Evelinson from Porto. I probably haven't pronounced that right, but he is an excellent striker who's not getting a lot of attention. And I think if you brought him to the Premier League, I think he would really do a job. He got 21 goals this season. His finishing is excellent. His holding onto the ball is excellent. His short passing is excellent. His bringing in players into game is excellent. I think he's definitely a player who, would fly under the radar of most top 6 clubs. And I think Southampton would be one of those teams that could, maybe snap him up. And it could be a really good transfer for them. I think they struggled a little bit in terms of in front of goal with players like Armstrong not really doing the job. Adams had little spells where he would do the job. Broja had spells where he would do the job. But they haven't really had a consistent striker for a good few years now who's going to score them, 15 goals a season. Next up, we're going to be moving on to Tottenham. Obviously, they're playing Champions League this season, so I think they should look for a Champions League quality player. They signed Perisic yesterday, so I think they should obviously go for Bastoni from Inter Milan. He is an excellent defender. He's played under Conte before. He's around about 50 million. He'll know Conte's game. He knows what, European football is, and he will work well with sort of Dyer, Romero in that back 3 as well. So he understands the system. I think that's definitely the signing to make for Tottenham, and I think that would be, just help them solidify that defence even more. Next up is going to be West Ham. I think West Ham should go for Emmanuel Dennis from Watford. I just think that Antonio, he was going to run a lot, he's going to hold the ball up a lot, but they need, that little extra where they can have that striker that can change a game, and is a different kind of striker where, like, you got Dennis who will sort of hang off the left and come inside and try and get in there, there's little spots there, and try and run in behind more. Whereas Antonio is more of a hold-up, sort of run and chase the ball kind of player. You need someone who's a different option up front. And when Antonio hasn't been, playing or injured, West Ham have struggled in front of goal, Finally, the last team on the list is going to be Wolves. I think they just signed Palhinha from Braga, I think. I can't remember. Anyway, he's Portuguese, so, he's Portuguese. He's got an excellent range of passing. He's got a good play style. He's good in the tackle. He's good in the air. He's an excellent midfielder. He's 26 years old, Portuguese, as I said before. And he just sort of fits the Bruno Lage system signing. And even if that does help, if Ruben Neves does leave, he would be an excellent replacement in that defensive midfield. So that would be my 20 transfers for 20 teams. Who you think your team should sign? Who you think what transfers I said were absolutely not going to happen, or, were dumb as hell? I don't know. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Peace out. Don't forget to subscribe. And bye.